Hi, this is Donna. Welcome to DD Paper Crafts. If you watched my last video, you would have seen me make this 5 by 7 inch stepper scene card, which fits together like so. And in today's video, I'm going to make a supersize version, which is when standing 10 inches by 8 inches. So let me show you how I put the supersize version together. So for the front panel, we'd need a piece of cardstock which is 9.5 by 10 inches. And we're going to start by scoring along the 9.5 side at 9 inches. Keeping the cardstock in the scoreboard, we're going to continue with our normal scoring. So we're going to score at 1 inch down to 1 inch. We're going to score at 2 inches down to 1 inch, and we're going to do that at the top and the bottom. So I'm going to flip my card, score at 1 inch down to 1, 2 inches down to 1, flip my card back and go over my score lines. So that's the score lines for the bottom of the stepper. We're then going to score at 8 inches. We're going to score along at 8 inches, and we're going to score from 1 inches down to 9 inches. And then our final score line is going to be at 1 inch along, and we're going to score from 2 inches across to 8 inches, like so. So these are our score lines. I'm going to rotate the cardstock and with the 1/2 inch tab at the top, and you can use your trimmer or your craft knife and ruler for this. So the first thing we want to do, we want to cut from the top edge of the card down to the end of the first score line that we made at 1 inches. So we're just cutting one long section. We're ending up with a loose flap. We're going to do the same on the other side. We've now got our 2 1 inch flaps which are just held on by this section at the bottom. So the next thing we want to do is we want to make, with our 1/2 inch tab on the right hand side, we're going to measure down along the 1 inch score lines. I'm just going to measure because I didn't score quite long enough, so I'm going to make a pencil mark at 2 inches and a pencil mark at 8 inches. So that should be the beginning and the end of your middle score line. And then we want to measure up from the pencil mark 6 inches. So this is going to create the aperture section for the front of the card. So I'm just going to make a light, so I can go in with my ruler if I'm confident. Make sure that I keep my blade right up against the edge of the ruler so that I don't veer off. And I'm going to cut down I'm going to do the same on this other side and then join up the 2 cut lines. So that's created the aperture for the stage. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to pop my piece back in my scoreboard, and I'm just going to extend the score lines where they don't quite meet. So now if we fold the front panel, now so the 2 1 inch score lines are mountain folds. The next 1 inch score line is a valley fold, and that will sit like this. So you need to make sure that you keep the folds square, because you need to be able to attach the back panel and you want that to sit squarely. So make sure that you take time to burnish these folds thoroughly and just make sure that the card is sitting squarely. We can fold over the top two tabs here, ready, and I would just cut a small wedge just so that when we add the next piece we haven't got any overhang. So I'll just cut a wedge in each of those like so. Now we want to fold over this along this score line, but we've got all this excess. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to place this section here in my trimmer, and I'm going to give myself a 1/2 inch tab. So I'm going to cut that section down, then we can go in, burnish this score line. Again, we want to make sure that this stays nice and square. This is the top edge of our card, as it were. And I'm going to cut away a tiny wedge from the tab, like so. So we're now left with our centre stage. So we want to burnish this backwards, like so. And you can now decide whether you want to add the 1/2 inch score line to help you when it fits through the back panel. I'm going to do that just because I find that the easiest way for the card to stay standing. So I've now got my 1/2 inch score line. I'm going to fold that back and I am just going to cut a slight wedge. So that's our front panel done. Now with any of these cards, as with the smaller card we made, you may find it easier to add your DSP to the front before you cut through the square aperture, particularly if you're wanting the base of your stage to have the same DSP as the frame. So you decide before you cut this centre section how you want to proceed. So that's the front panel. For the back section, we need a piece which measures 8 inches by 10 inches. And along the 10-inch side, basically what we're going to do is we're going to cut out a 1-inch square from here and from here. So you can either mark it with your scoreboard or use your ruler and pencil, but we're going to cut away these top corners like so. The final thing is to create the slot in which the stage is going to slot through. So you can do this one of two ways. You can either take your front panel, fold back the stage, lay your card on top of each other like this. So this is how the card will effectively join up, making sure that your top and bottom and everything is sitting square. Draw a pencil line inside and use that as your guide. Or alternatively, for this particular card, if we keep the cardstock in, so we've got the two 1-inch squares on the left hand side, we will be cutting at 7 inches and we will be cutting between 2 and 8 inches. So at 7 inches along, we'll be making our cut line between 2 inches and 8 inches. Create this slot. So I'm going to cut away these 1-inch squares at the top. This is our back panel. And what we're going to do is we're going to add glue to this left hand tab, the center tabs and the right hand tab, and we're going to lay this piece on top and make sure that the card all lines up and sits squarely. So I'm going to go ahead and do my glue. I'm going to stick my panel, center panel down first, stick down my side panels, making sure that my top is aligned. Then I'm just going to go back in, re-burnish everything. So just make sure that everything is sitting nice and square. So now my stage fits through the slot at the back. So just test that your slot is wide enough and adjust it if you need to. That fits through there nicely. Card stands up like so. See that you get a really good aperture to create your scene. So if you use the measurements, 1 inch for your side section, 1 inch for the edge of your frame, the width of your aperture, 1 inch and 1 inch, you can quite easily adjust this for any size aperture that you want in the middle. So I'm going to go ahead and decorate this just to make sure that it does turn out as I expect it to turn out, and I'll give you a picture at the end. Here's the finished card as it would be folded flat as it goes in the envelope. As per the smaller version, I'd put some instructions in. So we lift the card up, push the center section down and put it through the slot at the back, like so. So the card will stand up. With this card, I did just ink up the tab that comes through the back. When the card's folded flat in the envelope, you don't get a white strip. So here is the scene as you would look at it. I've done the same as the smaller card where I've put the image through and made a slot in the base, and I've added some flowers. I've got a moving element here and added some googly eyes, and all the hibiscus and stamped plant elements are from Papercraft Society box 47, the Phil Martin box. And the characters are from the Just Hanging Around and the Just Chillin' stamp and die sets, which are from the Made to Surprise band. I think this is one of the nicest projects I've ever made. I'm really happy. Obviously, you would need to make a custom envelope for this, or a slimline box would just work just as well. There's plenty of room on the back to write your message, and I think it's a real wow piece and would be really suitable for any scene that you wanted to make. And once again, I'll just show you. The tab pushes through the slot, folds to the front, and the card will sit in the envelope. There is some dimension to this because some of the flowers are on 3D foam, but it is relatively flat. So I hope you've enjoyed this Supersize project. If you have, please give me a thumbs up and please consider subscribing to the channel. So until next time, thanks for watching.